What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Coach Sean's Kitchen. Today's episode is all about coffee, and I'm gonna show you how I brew it, as well as some of my favorite recipes to use coffee in. You're not gonna wanna miss it. This is Coach Sean's Kitchen. Now, if you're new to Coach Sean's Kitchen, first off, welcome and thank you for stopping by my channel. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do so, and please like and comment videos and share them on social media. It's the single best thing you can do for Coach Sean's Kitchen. Now, you may have noticed I've got a new shirt on, and that's because all the recipes I'm gonna show you here today, I'm using Caveman coffee. Back when I lived in New Mexico, I met some truly amazing people that helped shape who I am as a person today. And a few of those people were affiliated with Caveman coffee. Not only do they make a great freaking cup of coffee, but as a company, they also have great values and a philosophy that I love. And they're not paying me to say this. I just think you guys should check them out. I'll put the link in the description below. Now, before we dive into a bunch of coffee recipes, there's some things we need to talk about beforehand, specifically the hardware. The first thing you're gonna need is a coffee grinder. And that's because if you want a truly delicious cup of coffee, you gotta grind your beans fresh. Now, I have two different types here. The first one you're probably familiar with. It's the one with the blade that spins around like this. While it does grind your beans and is better than buying pre-ground coffee, it is not the best type you can buy. This other unit I have is a burr grinder that gives you a very consistent grind size on your coffee. So anytime I'm making a pour over or a Chemex or anything of that nature, I like a nice coarse grind of coffee. The next piece of equipment you're gonna need is a scale. In all of my recipes, you're gonna see that I weigh not only my coffee beans, but my water as well. Once you know exactly how strong you like your coffee, you can dial in the ratio of water to beans. Now, a good place to start is you're gonna wanna use a ratio of 1 to 10 to 1 to 20, meaning for every 1 gram of coffee, you're gonna wanna use 10 to 20 grams of water. And this is gonna come down to your personal preference. For me, I like a really strong brew, so a lot of times I stick in that 12 to 15 range. And if you like your coffee a little bit weaker, you can go all the way up to 20 parts water. Now, the first recipe I'm gonna show you is gonna be a single serving pour over. This is great if you have some very nice beans and you truly wanna sit back and enjoy a cup of coffee. So the ratio I'm gonna use for this first one is 30 grams of beans to 350 grams of water. So once my beans are ground up, I'm gonna put my pour over brewing device on top of my cup, and I'm gonna put a filter inside it. Now, you can get both of these pieces of equipment online, but a lot of times I find them sold in any grocery store. So before I add my beans into this filter, the first thing I wanna do is I wanna wash it out. And this is gonna help rid it of that paper taste. Then I'm gonna dump out the water, and then I'm gonna add my beans into the filter, and I'm gonna ensure my scale is tarred out. Now, this first pour, I'm only gonna add 30 to 60 grams of water, just enough to barely cover the top. And then I'm gonna let it sit for a good minute. And what this is blooming the coffee. This first initial pour is gonna help really awaken a lot of those flavors and that essential oils that give coffee its taste. Once it's been a minute, I'm gonna continue pouring water over the top of the beans until I hit my 350 grams total. And I like to do this in 2 to 3 batches. Now, a lot of people are gonna tell you that you need to be very exact with the amounts of water you're putting in. They'll tell you to go from 60 to 150 to 250. I found that it really doesn't make too big of a difference in the end. As long as you do it in a few batches, you should be good. Now, once I've hit 350 grams of water, I'm gonna wait till it's done dripping, and then I'm gonna remove the filter in the beans. What I'm not gonna do is squeeze the filter in the beans to extract all of the water. This would give the coffee a very bitter taste. So there you have a single serving cup of pour over coffee. If you wanted to be a little bit fancy with it, you could turn this into Bulletproof Coffee. Now, what Bulletproof Coffee is it's coffee blended with MCT oil and grass-fed butter. And what this does is it emulsifies the coffee and creates a very light and frothy taste. And this is a great way to get extra fat in your diet if you need that. And for your first time making it, I suggest that you only do MCT oil and butter. But once you get an understanding of what flavors are great in it, I like to add in a little bit of cinnamon, ginger, and just a hint of cayenne pepper. Once it's blended up, you can see that light frothy head that we have on top of it, and it's just an amazing morning treat. Now, the next kind of brewing I'm gonna show you is what's called a Chemex. And this is basically a pour over, just on a larger scale. And all the rules are going to apply the same as with the single serving. Make sure you know your ratio of grams of coffee to grams of water, and pour it in a few incremental steps, not all the water at once. So instead of showing you just a larger pour over, the next thing I'm gonna do is create a Japanese style iced coffee. Now, if you've ever tried cold brew, you've noticed that the coffee is not very acidic at all. And that's because the cold process of brewing the coffee prevents a lot of that acidity from building up in the coffee. But if you don't have 18 to 24 hours to do that, then this is the next best method. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep my same ratio of what I like coffee, roughly that 1 gram of bean to 15 grams of water. And I'm gonna take my water and I'm gonna replace 1/3 of it with ice in my Chemex. That way, all my ratios are gonna stay the same in the end. So what's going on here is we're using the hot water to brew the coffee and really extract all of those beautiful flavors. Then we're immediately icing it down to lock in all of those flavors. If you love iced coffee, then you have to try this Japanese method. It is so much better than just hot brewed coffee poured over ice. The last thing I'm gonna add to this is a little bit of heavy cream, and now you have a beautiful iced coffee. So my favorite way to enjoy coffee is an Americano. And all an Americano is a shot of espresso diluted with water. Now I understand most of us don't have an espresso machine in our house, but this unit by Breville is one of my favorite purchases I've ever made in my life. And if you ever look into getting one, I highly suggest you get a unit where the grinder and the brewer are all in one unit. That way you know all the equipment works well together. So once I've brewed my shot of espresso, I'm gonna add a little bit of hot water to make a normal sized cup of coffee. And that's all that goes into an Americano. The reason I love this cup of coffee is I think the flavor is a little bit more pronounced in espresso, and it's also much more efficient with the beans. So there you've got it. There's a few of my favorite ways to brew coffee. Let me know in the comments which one you're most excited to try. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Coach Sean's Kitchen, and as always, you can make anything homemade and healthy.